Where in your life do you or do you not have or see freedom?
I think I have a lot of freedom in my life. Obviously, I grew up in a democratic country where we're not oppressed at all, so I can do what I want and say what I want and think what I want, to an extent, of course, within reason. I can't just go around like hitting people, or I can't just go around saying nasty things, because of course we have consequences from that. So I see a lot of freedom in my life. I think the only time I ever don't see freedom, I suppose, would be with work. You know, obviously, I've got my hobbies like my filmmaking and stuff like that. I'd love to do that all the time, constantly, but I can't because I work. So you could say that's a freedom I don't have, but that's a necessary freedom, because of course I need to work to make money. So otherwise I have even less freedom because I won't be able to do anything if I don't have the money.
Does judgment from society restrict your freedom to present yourself how you wish? If so, or if not, why?
I don't think society really restricts me at all. I think I feel quite happy to present myself and express myself however I like. So I would say not really. I don't really particularly, in a good way, care what other people think, really. How do I put this? It's not like a case of I don't listen to people, but it's just like if people look at me and think, oh, look how he dresses, look how he acts, it wouldn't bother me at all. If I was like being horrible at all and people would like call us out on it, then fair enough, I would care about that. But as for like presenting myself, I wouldn't particularly say so, no.
How do you think freedom has changed since World War II or in your lifetime?
It would depend on really how you're looking at it. So for some places after the Second World War, freedom was kept, like in here and in America. Freedom was given back to, you know, certain parts of Germany and certain parts of Europe that were occupied by the Nazis. But if you look at other places like East Germany and past the Iron Curtain, they were very much went from one occupier in the Nazis to then another occupier in the Soviet Union. So in a way, a lot of freedom was sort of, it wasn't really changed, it wasn't really given, it was just sort of, well, they went from one occupier to another. So, but of course, a lot of stuff has changed since then. You know, the Berlin Wall's fallen, Eastern Europe, for the most part, has become democratic and free. And then during my lifetime, I've also grown up in a democratic country. I've grown up in a mostly democratic world. And I think for the most part, it's been like that. But in recent years, I think it is starting to turn a bit, and not necessarily in the best way. You see, you know, like obviously we know about like North Korea and places like that, Russia, and to a lesser extent, but certainly in recent years, places like Hungary and Poland. And then especially in the past couple of years, America I think is definitely starting to change. Like this is a country that prides itself on being like about liberty and freedom and stuff like that. And yet you read about some of the things, and it seems like they're sort of trying to turn away from that, which is very strange. So we're living in a weird time at the minute, I think. And I think I'm at the age now where I read the news and I understand a bit more about it than when I was younger. If this stuff was sort of happening when I was younger, I probably wouldn't have understood anything about it. So to say, I think freedom is changing in my lifetime, I think definitely. And where it's going to go, I'm not too sure. Hopefully it'll stay for the most part as it is. We'll stay free, democratic. We won't be oppressed by higher up. But you never know. You look at history, sometimes that sort of thing happens.
How do things such as race, gender, disability, sexuality and wealth affect your or other people's freedom?
Well, it's interesting because I come at the point of view of a heterosexual white person, and therefore that kind of, all those sort of things don't really affect me too much in terms of freedom. But I'm very aware that for other people who aren't heterosexual and aren't white, it is different, and they sort of like can be a bit more oppressed, a bit more looked down upon. I suppose the only thing that I'd say would ever affect me freedom-wise is probably wealth because of that. You know, like I went through a period last year where I was unemployed for a year and I didn't have much money, and I was certainly limited in what I could do. I couldn't go on holiday, for example. I couldn't really go far because I'd have to think about the petrol cost and accommodation cost and things like that. That's changed now that I've got a job, but then again, that's sort of taken away freedom because now I have to work for that, which I'm not complaining about. It's a necessary freedom, a necessary limitation, as I said before. But I think for other people, unfortunately, and it shouldn't be this way, but sadly, to an extent it is, that their skin colour, their sexuality, and what have you, does sort of affect them. They don't feel as free. They do feel sort of like looked down upon and sort of oppressed, for lack of a better word. So I think it does definitely affect other people, 100%. And it's a shame. It shouldn't be like that, but and I think it's changing. I think the world is changing slowly. That we're becoming more accepting. Like I think where we are in the United Kingdom now, we're quite a tolerant country, as is. So hopefully it won't go too far back the other way.
Can you tell me about a place or places that you do or don't have freedom?
I don't think there's anywhere in particular I don't feel freedom. But as I say, I'm coming from that as somebody who's got a job and has money, isn't really oppressed at all, lives in a democratic country, has grown up here. I wouldn't say there's anywhere in particular that I don't feel freedom, but then you watch the news and you see other people and you do realise that more than anything you're lucky, because there are a lot of people a lot worse off than us, and I think you need to keep your eye out for that.